Wouldn't it be nice if you could grow your own apples?
It certainly would. And joining us now is Steve Goodgen. He's the owner of Bear Swamp Orchards in Ashfield. He's actually going to tell us how we can grow our very own apple trees, but it's not the easiest process in the world.
It's not. I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons to growing apples. Obviously, you can get a lot of your own fruit. It's delicious. A lot of things you can do with the fruit: applesauce, baking, hard cider, sweet cider. But apples are really difficult to grow. They have a lot of disease problems, and they have a lot of pest problems also. One of the first things to do when choosing an apple tree is to look for an apple variety that is disease resistant. So automatically out of the gate, you're not going to have problems with apple scab, which is one of the most common apple diseases. It's going to be hard sometimes to find some of these at your local nurseries. You can ask around, but there are definitely a lot of places where you can mail order trees like that, like Fedco Trees in Maine.
But there's a lot of different sites that you can get them from.
Yeah, there's a lot of places to get them from. I mean, as far as going from there, you can't just take a seed from an apple. Like a common apple is going to have 5 seeds inside there. Each one of those seeds is potentially a new variety of apples. So they have every apple tree has 2 parents.
Oh.
So they have, one parent and another one that pollinates it. Bees doing that work. And so what happens is that you can end up with an incredible amount of diversity. So the only way to get an apple is to graft it. What you do is you have rootstock like this, which has a little bit of root on the bottom of it, and you take a piece of the tree that you want to graft from, say a Macintosh or something, and you have to basically hook it to that. And the way you do that is you cut it in a certain way using whip and tongue, and this actually goes right together.
So I don't know if everyone at home can see it, but basically it's been sliced on a diagonal, but there's also a little slice in there so that you can easily affix them to each other.
Yeah, this isn't something you're necessarily going to do at home, but that's basically how an apple tree is propagated.
Because apples are, it's kind of like a fingerprint. Everyone's unique.
Yeah.
And it's not like every apple tree is the same. There's infinitely and exponentially more apple varieties.
There's 5, 10, 15, 20, as many types of apples right there. But as far as picking a tree and basically for your yard, try to find a disease-resistant apple. And then you want to plant it in your yard. You want a place that's going to have a lot of good airflow around it. And that's going to help, again, with just drying the tree out, keep other disease problems from taking place. And then keeping that tree, when you want to get it in the ground, you generally want to plant those in the spring. You want to dig a really big hole, 3 feet wide, a couple feet deep, and then go ahead and fill it mostly with compost, and then put your tree in the ground there. Water it throughout the summer. It's probably going to be 2 to 3 years before you can expect to see fruit on that, depending on the ultimate size of the tree.
Wow, so you got some patience.
It's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love, and there's a lot of patience.
It's not just a matter of planting your apple core in the ground and then boom, you have an apple tree.
No, it's not like
not that easy.
No.
Yeah, Johnny Appleseed, it took him a lot longer, didn't it?
It took him a lot longer, and he was planting them just from seeds too, so he had to wait. I mean, if you go to a nursery or get one, you can get a tree that's say 5 or 6 feet tall, and so you're already a couple years into it. So you put a seed in the ground, you're talking 5, 6 years to 7 years before it'll even fruit.
You may even forget you had it.
You may forget you had it or prune it off.
I'm hungry. I don't have that kind of time. Well, let's talk about, once we've planted our trees, the maintenance for them.
The maintenance for them is generally going to be pretty simple for the first few years. You really don't want to mess with it at all. You don't want to let it fruit. If you do see blossoms on it, you want to kind of pick those off because you don't want them to fruit too soon. There's a lot of training involved. I'd recommend you talking to somebody or getting a book.
But you go to cider days.
You go to cider days, lots of talks on growing apples and how to train trees. But you want to keep that tree kind of open, so you have kind of a lot of horizontal branches on it. It's going to mean, using some of your, pruning tools to take branches off that you don't want, say branches that go vertically up or horizontally, go up or down basically. You don't want branches to go up or down. You want everything to kind of fan out from the tree. And then as far as you're not going to need to spray it or worry about pests for the first few years. What you might want to do at some point is once you start getting fruit, you may want to consider pesticides. But for the most part, it's going to be really hard if you have a single tree in your yard to really manage outside pests. So I'd say choose a disease-resistant variety and then just kind of hope for the best.
And that's all you can hope for is the best. Well, we could probably talk about this all day, but if people want more information, you can go on down to Cider Days and ciderdays.org. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Ciderdays.org.
It's a pleasure to have you here, but don't go anywhere because a little bit later we are going to be tasting some cider.